Welcome to another exciting episode of In Conversation with Alethia. I'm your host, Alethia O'Hara Stevenson. In each episode, I sit down with incredible individuals who are doing amazing things. The show will educate, it will empower, and it will inspire you. On this episode, I am extremely honored to have a trailblazer, a phenomenal woman. She is the mayor of the town of Orangeville. Not only that, she's a mom, a wife, a grandma, and a professor. She is a multi-talented trailblazer and leader right here in our community in Dufferin County. Welcome to In Conversation with Alethia. I'm going to say Mayor Lisa Post to start off with.
Thank you so much for having me here, and your words are so kind. I appreciate it.
Oh, listen, it is absolutely an honor, and I know you're going to tell me not to call you Mayor Lisa Post, but as with all of my guests, I like to give flowers where flowers are due, and you have rightfully earned the title of mayor, and I think it's an incredible honor, and it's inspiring for anyone listening. So Mayor Lisa Post, and then we can get more casual as we carry on the conversation.
Thank you. I love the title of mayor, and I'm honored that the community gave it to me, right? It's a real honor to serve as mayor.
Amazing. I love that. Before we dive into your journey to becoming a mayor, I'm going to start from the beginning because I was reading a little bit about your bio and your family. You are a fourth generation Orangevillian,
yes,
if that's a word.
Yes, absolutely. So Caledon, actually, but this area, right? This is our community. My great-grandfather, my grandfather, my dad, and then my generation are all from here. My grandfather, Alec Rayburn from Caledon Village, actually served as a school board trustee.
Okay.
And he served on the very first iteration of Peel Council. When Peel was first formed, he was one of the first councillors to represent Caledon.
That's incredible. And so I imagine at the dinner table, you would have had some really rich conversations around politics and being involved, not just from a political perspective, but just as your title and slogan is, rooted in community, just being there for each other.
Absolutely. And that was the thing that we talked about. It wasn't necessarily about the political side. It was about giving back to the community that raises you and making sure that you can contribute in a positive way in some sense. So leadership doesn't mean that you have to be the mayor. Leadership can be community volunteerism. That's huge community leadership. So being able to give back to the community in any way is what we talked about a lot.
I love that. And before you even ventured on your journey to becoming a mayor, you were heavily involved, and you still are heavily involved in the community, despite wearing, or in addition to wearing your mayor hat. I know some of the activities that you've been heavily involved in is around culture and diversity and inclusion, and just representing the rich, dynamic, and diverse community that we have here in Orangeville.
Absolutely. And I've got a passion around that area, but also around our not-for-profits, making sure that we've got services available that are accessible to everyone. And I think being able to celebrate the things that bring us together is a really powerful thing. So having a rich, diverse community, which is growing and continuing to grow, making sure that people feel included and that they feel that Orangeville is their home and that it's safe is such an important part of everything that I believe, not only from a volunteer perspective, but also as the mayor. Being able to create a community where people can feel welcomed and loved and cherished is a critical part of what I do.
That's amazing. And I love the fact that you're not just a mayor behind a desk, you're heavily involved so people can see you visibly out there in the community. And I love that. And, you know, community members can just reach out and say, hey, Lisa.
And
hey,
I hope
Mayor.
they do, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing I want them to do. I want them to know that being connected to the town hall is a really important part of participation. And, you know, we want people to vote. We want people to come out to our community meetings, to come out to our council meetings, to talk about the issues that are going on and to give their solutions, quite honestly. I don't live in every neighborhood, so I want to hear what's going on in your neighborhood. I want to know what are the things that are missing, what are the things that are working great, and let's try and replicate them.
Now, from having those conversations at your dinner table and growing up, and then fast forwarding many, many years to the first time that you ran for municipal elections, can you share about that experience? I know the first time that you ran as councillor, you didn't win,
Correct.
But that did not deter you.
No, absolutely. And the first time that I ran was in 2014. I decided to run for council for a couple of reasons. The big one being that I was starting to see the community change in a way that it wasn't the community that I grew up in anymore, and I was trying to raise my kids there. So again, thinking back to what my grandfather and my parents always told me, you know, try and give back instead of criticizing, try and find a way to participate. So I decided that I was going to run for council, and I'd never done it before, and I was eager and excited, and I worked really hard to run. And you know, I had already been volunteering with a number of not-for-profits in the community, and I saw what some of their gaps were, and I wanted to be on the policy side to be able to impact things in a positive way to make their lives as not-for-profit services in our community easier. I didn't win. I knocked on a lot of doors. I talked to a lot of people, had a lot of great conversations, but ultimately it wasn't my turn, and that was okay. So I decided to participate. I started a blog. I attended every council meeting. I wanted to make sure, because one of the things that I heard when I was knocking on doors is that residents didn't care because they were commuting to Brampton or Mississauga or Toronto for work, and they didn't feel as connected to the community. So at the end of the day, they thought that their vote for a municipal politician didn't matter. They didn't know the names. They didn't participate in the community that way. So I felt a responsibility to try and find a way to connect them in an easy way. So I attended council meetings. I took all of the many reports that come to a council meeting and tried to simplify them into something that was easy to read, that a resident could read, knowing that they're very busy people, that they could read on a coffee break at work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wrote, 1,500 word blog posts about council meetings, and I would tell them about what happened, what were the things that they needed to know, and on controversial issues I told them how I would have voted and why if I was a councillor, so that they knew my perspective.
Interesting. And that's a great nugget that you just shared for any aspiring leader, wanting to run for any election. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely. Municipal politics is complicated. There's a lot of reports. I'm not an expert in anything. So becoming an expert or understanding all of the issues that are going on is so critical. And there's a lot of policy and a lot of legislative requirements to be on council. So coming out and watching a council meeting is a great way to understand if it's something that you think you want to do and how you can participate.
Absolutely. And another great nugget that you just shared, even from a resident perspective, it's great to just go out there and listen to these council meetings because you learn so much.
That's right. We talk about a lot of really, really important things, and they're things that impact your everyday life. Often people are connected to federal politics because it's loud and it's flashy and you can hear all the slogans and things going on. But really, the federal government doesn't impact your day-to-day life in the same way that your municipal government does. We are the ones who make sure you have water when you turn on your tap to brush your teeth in the morning, that you've got sidewalks to walk your dogs on, that you've got parks to take your kids to, recreation facilities. All of those things are things that make your lives enriched as a community member, and it's all done at the municipal level. It's not the province or the federal government that's doing that. They give us a lot of money to help us do those things, but it's not their policies really that are impacting you on a day-to-day basis as much as municipal is.
Yeah, so the garbage collection and
that's right.
Clean drinking water, safe drinking water.
Safe drinking water, all those things.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Now, moving forward to, 4 years later when you ran for council and you finally won. What was that moment like? And, by then you were already a mom, married, but your family played a significant role by your side, knocking on doors with you. Share some of those moments and we'll touch on some of the challenges after, but share some of the highs first.
So some of the greatest things was having my kids knock on doors with me. I just recently shared a picture the other day of 10 years ago when I ran the first time, and my daughter was 8 at the time, knocking on doors with me, and it was her first experience with it as well. And then in 2018, she was back out, so was my son, knocking on doors with me and my husband. So having that family support is such a crucial part because it's a big commitment. And it's a big commitment from a time perspective, but it's also a big commitment from your social exposure, right? You're putting yourself out there, and as a result, your family is out there with you, right? My whole life is pretty public. So making sure that I had family that could understand that was really important. Even still, there's social media stuff that happens and is said, and it's really important that my family understands and that my kids aren't too impacted or affected negatively by some of the stuff that goes on social media. And it's tough. It's a hard life to get into once you're in it, and make sure that you understand how to navigate it.
Definitely. And I know some of the challenges that, I wouldn't say challenges, but some of the things that came your way as you were running for office was questions around your womanness, right? So how you were able to navigate, being a mom, a wife, and all of those wonderful things while running for office. So share some of those moments.
So I was raised in a family where women could do anything. There was never a gender role power structure that in my family. Even my grandfather, who was born in a time and raised in a time where it wasn't so popular necessarily to prop women up, when he was in political office, he was working amongst the greats. Hazel McCallion was one of his favorite people, right? He really promoted and helped the first female mayor run in Caledon. Those were things that were important to him. He thought women's voices mattered, and he talked about that, right? So to me, it never impacted me in that way. My womanhood never impacted me. And then the first time I knocked on a door and was questioned about it, I was taken aback. I had a gentleman ask me how I was planning on balancing the role of mom and counselor at the same time. And I looked at him like he was ridiculous. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I've been working full time and being a mom, and it doesn't impact it. In fact, I have a better, different voice to bring to the table, a rich voice as a mom of young kids, in the trenches right here. I've got a voice to bring to the table that's not being heard loud enough.
Definitely.
And then when I ran for mayor, I was questioned and told that the mayor was a man's job.
Oh.
And again, I was floored. I couldn't believe that in 2022, there was still folks out there that thought that I shouldn't be running simply because I was a woman.
Wow. And all the more reason, we keep saying the term representation matters. That's all the more reason why we need to see more women in leadership positions, right?
Absolutely. Orangeville was incorporated in 1863.
Wow.
And I am the second female mayor that Orangeville has ever had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about trailblazer.
Right?
And the good thing about this conversation is, yes, you're the second, but hopefully you're not the last female.
No.
I'm sure this is going to be an opportunity to pave the way for many females to now aspire to. I know, even when I was going on my political journey, there are so many young female that, would say, oh my gosh, I never thought.
Yeah.
Right? So here you are in a position of leadership as the mayor. What an incredibly inspiring moment for a young girl to be able to look up to and say, I can. Just because
and
you're
I take
in
that
seat.
Responsibility really seriously too. And I try and devote a lot of time to going into schools and chatting with youth and going to the Girl Guide groups and going to, bringing some groups into our town hall and talking to them about the fact that I am only the second female mayor and that women's voices at the table matter, and for a diverse group of reasons. Not just because I'm a mom, but because I do have different lived experiences than other people in the community, and I've got a different perspective to bring to the table.
Oh, that's incredible. I love that.
Yeah. And when I hear the kids, especially the young girls, asking me questions about the community or about politics, I always say, keep asking those questions. Like, you're 8 today, but you're going to be 18 one of these days. And make sure you vote, and make sure that you remember that you can be a mayor, you can be a counselor. Keep asking those questions. Keep looking at your community differently. You can be a community leader in so many ways.
That is so true and powerful, because those same young students are going to be the ones voting. And if they're not engaged from an early age, they're going to have, turn 18 and have no interest. So
exactly.
It's crucially important. Yeah, I love that. This conversation is so rich, and we are going to take a short break, and we're going to pick up the conversation and dive into your academic journey and you becoming a professor. So hold that thought.
Okay.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break with In Conversation with Alethia and Mayor Lisa Post. Stay tuned. Welcome back to In Conversation with Alethia, and in the studio I am with Mayor Lisa Post, Mayor for the town of Orangeville. So Lisa, we left off talking about your journey to becoming the mayor, the second female mayor in the town of Orangeville since 1863 when Orangeville was incorporated. Now we're going to segue into your academic journey. And I don't want to put age out there, but let's just set the tone that you started your undergraduate when you were already a mom, an experienced mom.
Yep.
What was your motivation and your inspiration for taking on that journey? Many people, at that age or after becoming a mom, would have a second thought and not wanting to pursue it, but you had the courage to. Why? How?
I was actually already a grandma by the time I started.
Oh my goodness.
So I was 39 when I started my time in school, and it was because I was a young mom. I was, my son was born when I was 18. I got married at 18. So, I was young. I was a young mom, we had raised a young family, and my academic endeavors kind of got put on hold when we decided to start a family. So, once my daughter got to the age that she was starting high school, and my son had already just had very recently had his daughter, it seemed like it was the right time. My kids didn't need me at home quite as much, so it was a good time for me to start. And it actually worked out really well because my daughter started high school as I started university, and we graduated the same year, which was really great. So I decided to do community development as my degree because it's what I'm passionate about. And there is no how to be a mayor or how to be a counselor school, but community development is really the next best thing. So it was important for me to continue to grow academically. And that the skills that I learned from an academic perspective have really enriched the work that I've been able to do in the community. Community development is a pretty important part of my job. It is the most important part of my job. So having that academic background in it has really enriched my experience.
I love that. And for me, what I'm taking away from this is, it's that second start, right? And it's never too late.
You're never too old. Go back to school. Honestly, do it. If you have an inkling that you want to go back to school and learn, when you go back as an adult, you learn in such a different way. And you've got such great life experience to bring along your academic journey that enriches the lives of the rest of your classroom as well. So I walked in feeling like the oldest lady in the whole classroom, right? The first time I walked into a class, I'm sitting with students that were the same age as my son and thinking, okay, what am I doing here? But really the life experience that I was able to bring to those folks in that class that were younger than me was great. And the experience that they were able to give me from their young perspective really enriched mine. So having that diverse balance in a classroom is such a positive thing. So don't ever feel like you're too old, because you're not. You're enriching the lives of the people in your class.
No, that's great. And when I think about the impact that would have immediately on your family, for example, when I completed my undergrad, I was already a mom as well, right? And so for me, I often share the stories that as I was doing my homework, my kids, were doing their homework as well. My daughter was right there, right? So she had the opportunity to experience what it's like and seeing mom continuing on that, higher education journey. So I can only imagine what that atmosphere in your household would have been like, having your daughter in high school, seeing mom pursue her undergraduate degree.
Absolutely. And it's such a powerful piece to be able to have that conversation that you're never too old. Don't ever put a ceiling on your goals, right? You've always got the sky's the limit. You can keep going. Being on council for the first time too, all happened at the same time that I was back at school. So, and the other thing that happened in all of that time was a global pandemic. So all of a sudden, I was doing council meetings from home. I was doing school from home. My daughter was doing high school from home. So we were sitting at the dinner table having really interesting community conversations. And even though it was very different from the way that I was raised having community conversations, I just know that really rubbed off on my daughter as talking about the things that you can contribute to your community. She was sitting in the same room while I was doing council meetings and watching them happen. And while I was on, Zoom calls for school doing community development work, she was on doing high school.
I love that. And she must have taken away so much information and so much growth.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Love it.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of those lessons that you've been able to take away as a young student, and as an adult student, I should say, and as you were navigating the many lives, being a mom, a counselor, a student, how were you able to navigate and make sure that you were taken care of, you were whole, to be able to continue to give back to your community?
I'm still working on that. It's something that I haven't nailed 100%. Honestly, I do lead a very busy life. I have a ridiculous calendar. And if I didn't plan and schedule everything, it just wouldn't get done. So a really good calendar app is crucial in maintaining a busy life. And they do say that if you need something done, give it to a busy person. And it's true, because we typically have a strong way of scheduling. But it's still a learning opportunity for me to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. And the work that I do as a mayor is stressful. And I carry the weight of 31,000 residents on my shoulders, right? And when things are impacting my residents negatively, I take that personally and I keep it with me. So I have to make sure that I'm trying to find time for myself. And I'm not super great at it yet. So I'm working on it. I'm still a work in progress, but I have done some things. Like this year I signed up for baseball and made sure that I took time a couple times a week to play baseball with a great group of ladies. And I joined a boxing gym and I do boxing now a couple times a week. And things like that are really rewarding for me and give me a little bit of time away where I can take the mayor hat off and have some fun.
No, that's amazing and super important. And again, having a strong family foundation, I'm sure, plays a pivotal vital role
Absolutely.
in not only keeping you grounded, but having that shoulder to lean on, with your husband to say, today was a rough day,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And I love my job. I love what I do. I always say I have the best job in the world, but some days are really hard, and some days there's a lot of weight that comes home with me because there are some, big social issues that are happening right now, and I wear that, and I know I do. So I have to make sure that I can check myself too as I walk into the door to make sure I'm not bringing that home to my family and dumping it on them. So I have to continue to navigate and get better at making sure that I'm taking care of myself. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And I totally understand your perspective of having to carry the weight of 31,000 community members. And then it goes to show how much you care, right? It's not just a job. You're truly rooted in community and invested in community to do the work that you're doing. And so something is not working quite right.
Yep.
You take it to heart.
Absolutely. Every time. And like I said, there are some big stuff going on right now in the world. And, economically, I know people are struggling. And I know our not-for-profit organizations are struggling with funding. And, we need to make sure that they are whole and that they can operate because they are the heartbeat of our community. And I know I can't solve all the problems alone, but I do carry the burden of them.
No, that's so true. Now, the other thing that I am fascinated about is the fact that you completed your undergrad and you decided to take on your master's, and you're also teaching.
I did actually decide to step away from my master's.
Okay.
So I accepted, and then I looked at my schedule and went, ooh, maybe this year's not right for me. And it just wasn't sitting well with me. So that was one of the things that I decided to do for myself. As excited as I was to go back to school, it just didn't feel like it was quite the right time for me. So I decided to withdraw, and I'm going to do it later. Again, you're never too old. I'm going to wait a few more years when the timing fits a little bit better. And I'm loving teaching at Georgian College. I'm doing a couple of courses there as part of the social service worker diploma program. And I feel like I've got something to bring to those students from a different perspective. I'm not a social service worker by trade, so being able to bring my experience in municipal politics and community leadership to those young students is really important to me, and I'm not ready to let that go yet. And in order to do my master's, I would have had to let that go, and I wasn't ready to.
Yeah, no, that's an important role that you're playing because you're shaping the lives of so many individuals who hopefully some will return back to their home community and run for office, right?
Yep.
And again, it doesn't have to be running for office, but taking up a leadership position to be able to enrich the communities where they reside. That's powerful.
And most of my students want to go into not-for-profit work, so I need them to be ready to deal with the social service world right now, right? So I need them to be the future of those social service organizations that, like I said, are the heartbeat of this community. They're the ones that make the world go round.
No, definitely. And I want to highlight the fact that, you recognize your schedule and your bandwidth and you decided to pause on your master's. There's nothing wrong with that.
It was a tough decision. It took lots of thought, lots of tears, lots of frustration for me to work it out in my head and in my gut. At the end of the day, I trust my gut. And my gut was telling me that something wasn't right with the timing. So I had to listen to myself. It's something that took me a while to learn, but now that I know it about myself, I've got good instincts and I just need to listen to them all the time. So it was telling me that it wasn't the right time. So my time as mayor I know is limited. I've only got so many years and so many terms that I can do this, and I need to invest myself 100% into this work because it is so important, and there's things that I want to get done and I want to do it in the time while I still can.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to do it right. And I think for me, what I'm hearing also is that, making that decision to pause is essentially just that. It's pause. It's not right now. Later on you'll continue on that journey, which is crucial. And then oftentimes, as female leaders, we tend to carry that weight and, thinking of it as a failure or, something negative. But let's spin that a little bit, right? And that's exactly what you have done. You're pausing for another time.
See, like I said, I'm learning self-care. I'm trying.
I absolutely love it. Yeah, I love it.
It was something I had to do for myself and for the community.
Absolutely. And that's a great legacy to leave behind and to demonstrate for your young adult daughter who's now pursuing, her university studies, right? So she can see firsthand that mom recognized when it was time to pause, when it was time to pivot, and, to focus on what the priorities are, right? Which includes self-care.
Absolutely.
Absolutely amazing. Oh my goodness. Now, talking about legacy, I know we're coming towards the end of the show, but what legacy would you want to leave behind for your family, your community?
Do you know what? To me, it's not about one single thing. It's not about a legacy specifically. To me, it's that in the short time that I get to be mayor, whatever that looks like, there are things that I know that our community needs. And what my ultimate goal is to set us up in a positive way for the future so that we can continue to be inclusive, so that people will feel welcome, so that we're fiscally responsible, so that we have good policies and procedures in place, so that Orangeville becomes a destination and stays a destination. I want families to think of Orangeville as the prime place that they want to live to raise their families.
Nice.
And I want it to be an affordable way to do it.
I love that. That's powerful. And my other rapid fire question for you as we, gear down, if you could look back and see young Lisa at 10 years old, what message would you give to her?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I would say, you know what, just keep dreaming big. I always thought, I should say, I never thought that I would necessarily take this path. I always thought that I wanted to be involved in something community-based, but I didn't know what it was going to look like. So keep dreaming, keep thinking about it, and keep listening to yourself.
Oh my gosh, I love that. What a powerful way to end this segment. So if anyone is out there, no matter your age, dream big, think big, and be positive. Thank you so much, Lisa, for having this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. We should do this again.
We definitely should. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning to another incredible episode of In Conversation with Alethia. Thank you to our sponsors, Town Tees for our logo, and of course, Moonstone by MA for the incredible jewelry. Thank you, and tune in next time. Bye for now.